Okay. Uh-oh. Are we live yet? Let's see all these pop-ups. Come on. Come on. Come on. Wow. Okay. All right. We're live, apparently. We're live somewhere, probably just on YouTube. I'll fix it for later. Thank you for bearing with me. This is Janet Care Lessin in Aloha. I live in Maui, Hawaii, and this is Aquarian Media. And I'm here with Karen Christine Patrick, who's got the hat on, and our guest today is Brad Markus, and we're going to be talking about the alien event that's coming up next weekend. I think it's October 17th through the 20th. It's in Las Vegas, Nevada, and we'll put some information on that in the link below this broadcast. So first I want to bring on Karen Christine Patrick. Aloha, how you doing today, Karen?
Oh, I love it. We finally got our fall weather here in the Pacific Northwest, and it's lovely.
Oh, yes. It's nice when that breaks. We finally had a night of fall weather. We're in Hawaii, and we get summer, we get winter too. It's sometimes really hot and sticky. So since we only have an hour, we're going to bring on Brad Markus. He's going to be presenting at alienevent.com. And Brad, I'm going to let you introduce yourself and tell people about yourself and what you're going to be talking about. So take it away.
You ready? Hi, Janet. Thank you for having me on your show. I feel like I've known you a long time because your interests kind of coincide with things I've been exploring since 2013, something like that. Extraterrestrial contact, ancient, which I've always been interested in ancient cultures, reincarnation, lost continents. So, but I focused on ET thing since about 2014. So,
yeah. So, first let's get this up front here. Promised David Farman that we would be doing interviews, and that's what we've been doing. And so, tell us about what you're going to be talking about at the conference.
Yeah. Well, I've chosen, because I'm interested in a lot of things, but I've chosen the extraterrestrial connection to the Anunnaki, which is a general term for some of the Sumerian gods who were apparently extraterrestrial beings who visited this planet. It's not like maybe a proven fact in some people's viewpoint, but it's been spoken of that way. And some people right now are having experiences, either meeting the Anunnaki or saying they're one of them. So I'm exploring that topic, and I'm going to go into some detail, maybe not deep detail. Do the ancient writings really correspond with the idea that they're extraterrestrial? Some people would say yes, some people would say no. So I'm kind of exploring that. Well, so I'm going to go over it a little bit and then have people ask questions.
People coming to the conference are more likely to be true believers. You know, they're more positive and not. I mean, the skeptics really aren't coming to these things much anymore, unless they're coming to disrupt them. So you can speak to people like it's a fact, or it's a hypothesis, but it's pretty much our subculture, has been exploring this information for decades now. So
yes,
yeah, I just want to. Since you're new to this whole field, just realize you're speaking to, the club, and they're all on board. What would you like to add on that, Karen?
I really appreciate that. Thank you very much for making me feel welcome.
You are very welcome. We're glad. We love to see the newbies because you've been studying it, but the ones coming on first time presenters and stuff, because they're adding things to the mix. We keep saying, well, we're all researching. A lot of us keep adding to the mix too, and new information. But okay, so what's the title of your presentation? Did you give it a title?
Well, I do have a title. I can't remember it 100%. Anunnaki, Sumerian gods, Starseeds, and Maria Orsic. So I'm going to cover all those things.
Great.
Because Maria Orsic was from Austria, and she according to the story, she was contacted by a race of beings that were related to the Anunnaki. So I'm going to tie that in briefly.
Right. So that's what we're finding. There's a correlation between the different things. So anyway, I think that's a nice connection. So the Sumerians, of course, on the Anunnaki, and I always wondered who Marie Orsic was. She sounds like she was an extraterrestrial. And
maybe, yes, maybe, because now that people are talking about starseeds, like that, some of the Earth people are starseeds. That means we have a genetic connection to extraterrestrial races. So that would make it seem like she probably had that type of starseed connection. Not that she appeared on a spaceship and came here, because they say she was born in Croatia. No, she was born in Austria, but her father was Croatian. So
Yeah.
that's the story. Some people said she never existed, but there's so much about her online now and in books. And people have had experiences meeting her or saying they had a past life as her.
All the above. Everything's coming out now. We're just trying to piece the puzzles. I don't make anybody wrong or bad. I go, what is your theory? What's your... Because if we leave it open to get the information, then we can kind of connect the dots and correlate the information and have a greater picture. But if we keep siphoning people and censoring them, we won't get the whole picture. So I want to give Karen a chance to ask a question. We're going to start with Karen. So we're gonna flesh this out, what you're talking about. We have about an hour. So Karen, go ahead. You do the first question.
Oh yeah, Brad. Brad, this is a wonderful topic, and I think it's fascinating. It's one that I've delved in as well. My heritage is partially Austrian, and I'm a contactee, so I have a lot of affinity for Maria and the other ladies who were in that group that were contacting. I believe they said Aldebaran. It was fascinating. So, oh man, it's such a big topic, really, and it doesn't seem like it, but you drill down, it becomes like a rabbit hole. What kind of got you started on it? What's your main thread that you're following for yourself?
There's a few threads, but that I have a starseed lineage in me. That's the thread. And it connects to ancient, maybe Hyperborea or Atlantis, that I had lifetimes there. It's part of my identity. Like when I was young, I just didn't feel like I fit into the society. And I actually identified a lot with African culture for a while, but I don't have any African DNA that I know of. So I don't know where that fits in, but I'm finding that this galactic information about maybe Nordic looking beings connects to my ancient DNA or heritage in some way. So the more dots I connect, the more I feel like I'm connecting with my lineage and my mission and my starseed connections. So you're helping me, Karen, to elucidate some of the ideas, because sometimes when I'm like, well, I'm going to present, but I don't always have a clear focus on what I want to speak about. Different things are on my mind at a different time, but when you ask those questions, it helps me to focus on what I'm really trying to do.
Right.
Good.
I wanted to add something, then I'll go back. We'll go round table here. So I am definitely, I have alien DNA within me, and I have Anunnaki DNA. I do my ancestry, and I'm tracking, and I work with other contactees and experiencers who do ancestry. And we can go all the way back to Anu. Basically, if you're in a humanoid form here on the Earth that identifies as human, you've got some Anunnaki DNA in you. We all do. But then again, there's all these other hybridizations and different species coming in. And so we've been an experiment for many different species for thousands and thousands of years, if not millions. So, and then your soul comes in from different realms. And then there's the whole thing about being multi-dimensional beings that simultaneously have incarnations, that humans think linearly, and it's like not linearly. You can be simultaneously on different galaxies, different planets, and different vibratory frequencies and dimensions. So that's my research. You don't have to take it or take it or leave it. You don't have to leave it. But that's where I'm coming in here. Is that we are all the about. We have it all in us. Okay, Brad, you seem like you have a comment or a question. Go ahead.
No, it totally resonates with me what you're saying. You touched a lot of points, and then there's other. But besides the Anunnaki, there's other galactic races like Pleiadians, Arcturians, maybe Sirius or Orion or the Nomo in Africa, maybe in South America, Quetzalcoatl, Kukulkan. There's so many different galactic connections, and I guess we're going to explore those too. One of the resources I use sometime is The Secret Doctrine by Helena Blavatsky.
And what does she say? How does that connect in?
Well, she's saying that there's root races and humanity's been on Earth for 18 million years, maybe.
Probably.
And it developed over stages and not just in the Fertile Crescent, in different parts of the Earth. Different root races developed. So,
great. Well, we've had many different generations because we've had all these catastrophes. It seems like the whole universe is very volatile. When incoming bodies come and connect with each other, they often create like volcanic eruptions and meteor asteroids and earth changes and floods and stuff. So that's why we have these. But there appears to be a way for our species to survive, and part of it is the inner Earth. We can go inside. A lot of the planets, life starts swimming inside of the planet because it's safer there. The surface of all these planets is very harsh and not always a livable environment at first. I'm getting feedback. I'm going to lower my sound a little bit here. Wow. Karen, why don't you take the ball while I work on the tech stuff?
It sounds like interdimensional interference or something.
They're all here.
It's using lights. Okay, so Karen, but first of all, I identify with the Anunnaki. I think I'm a fractal of Nima. One of my primary subpersonalities are fractals, and it's not that I'm her incarnation. It's that she's a powerful top-level Anunnaki, and she can incarnate in hundreds of places, thousands of places. So that's that whole part. So I identify with her, and I know lots of people who identify with Nima or Nana or Marduk or Thoth and whatever. So you're going to find that you said earlier that you're encountering people who say that they talk to the Anunnaki or they maybe are the Anunnaki, and it might be all the above. They might talk to you because you are Anunnaki and you have an Anunnaki soul, or you have Anunnaki DNA. So that's what I'm finding. So just a little side. I'm presenting Dragon at the End of Time is where I encounter the dragon Melusine, and she is our mother. We're related to each other genetically with species that can look totally different from one another. So yeah, we're having contact with all these different species because we're all cousins, right? And then my husband, Dr. Lessin, is going to lead on an Anunnaki presentation on perks, promises, and pledges. No, there's some negative in there. I have to pull the title, but I'm focused on you today, Brad. So anyway, so we're all presenting at every event. Karen is a presenter as well, but she's not on this event, but we'll probably get her in on a future event. Okay, so you want to say something more, Brad, before I go back to Karen? Go ahead.
I don't know that you mentioned, I was just reading about your being a fractal of Ninma, right?
Ninma, yes, the goddess Ninma.
And I think that Elena Danaan has had contact with some of these beings directly because she's been on Ia's ship called the Nibiru. And she's saying that Nibiru was not a physical planet. It's a planet in another dimension. That's what she's saying. And actually what they're traveling on, some of the Anunnaki are on this Nibiru ship. and Enki is the main person there. So
let me interject. Karen, you worked with what was that guy's name?
Yeah, the being that I was in contact with.
The Michael Lee Hill. You guys all connected with.
I heard of.
A.R. Borden. Yeah, I was part of the A.R. Borden.
Okay,
I haven't had contact in a while with all of that because he left this plane of existence and is elsewhere. But I've met a lot of people who were connected. I want to kind of interject that too, that the Anunnaki connection for people, there's a lot of people who are making that connection. And how I got into it was in 2010 or 11, I started doing ancestral line work, which I was in a really awesome situation for meditation. I was on a boat, so I was immersed in water. People talk about, that, what is it, 11 in that show, Stranger Things, was in the bath in the water. It's kind of a similar vibe, really. And it allowed me, my meditations really kicked up into exploring, I'm Irish, so it's the other world, the other dimensions. And that's when I made a connection with an Anunnaki ancestor who, then when I was able to communicate, I had already been in contact with A.R. Borden before that happened. I was able to kind of validate some of what was going on with that. But there's a lot of people for whom this story is very compelling. I would say I'm one of those.
So who is A.R. Borden first?
A.R. Borden. Oh boy, that's the question of the century.
That's a tiny thing, yeah.
I'll give it in a gist. He was in the clandestine study of the Anunnaki story. He was an Anunnaki contactee. He was involved in stuff. But he felt like regular people who or not regular, but people who were contactees to the Anunnaki deserved to know what his group had been studying about the Anunnaki. And so that's when I met Michael Lee Hill and others.
I remember reading on the site that he went to the meetings on board the ship and they had minutes of the meetings. And so I think that the ship you're talking about, Brad, that Ilana Denali is talking about,
might have been
is the same ship. I like to connect the dots, and so that's why I wrote that in A.R. Borden. It's like, yes, other people have reported being on the ships, being a part of the meeting. I have memories of that too, being in the council, some large meetings with hundreds of thousands of people to the smaller meetings where you could all sit in the boardroom around one table. But A.R. Borden had the minutes of the meeting, and he would put like who was present. There's so many Anunnaki, so many Braves, so many Pleiadians, whatever. So did you read those minutes, Karen? You remember reading those minutes?
Some my connection with him was more validating some of the things I was experiencing, and then I was also involved in some connected experimentation with a group of people to try to do different things, and then he passed on, and we all kind of are doing our things.
Well, but Neil Freer also was in contact.
I did interview.
Yeah, and so Neil Freer was connected. So anyway, there's a history of what you're saying, Brad, of people that have had this type of contact with the meetings, and so they were trying to get Nibiru. They were trying to time shift the Earth so when Nibiru came through, it wouldn't destroy us like it had, or almost destroyed us in Noah's time. And apparently that succeeded, and they did some kind of time shift. Anyway, so to finish up with you, Karen, go ahead, and then we'll go back to Brad.
Oh no, I just want to. I did want to actually ask Brad a question. For me, my connection to my ancestor, who was an Anunnaki, Godi Godesh is what he called himself, and I found out later that those names mean things in different languages. Godi in Scandinavian means priest and king, or priest and ruler, which was still a thing in some pagan circles where they have the combination of priest and ruler. And Godesh is Hebrew for holy, so that was an interesting word study. And it came in song. I'm a soul, what I call soul singing, which is just you sing, you ad lib, you don't even know what language it is. And I dropped into a really lower register, and boom, he was right there. And I voice channeled for a while, but then, you know, it's not always easy to do that socially.
Right.
So I kind of said, okay, let's do it a different way, as well as I do automatic writing. So I had some of what he talked to me about. But he was one of those beings who didn't think much of humans at first, because there was an attitude that we were slaves, right? And then began to see the spark of the divine, is what the way I called it, in humanity. That and there was more of an attitude of us being like children, or you know, and they're a little embarrassed that we're actually so much like them. Actually, it's like when you have a little kid and they say a swear word or something, you go, "Oh, where'd they learn that?" Well, it's kind of the same thing. How we do society and how we do wars and all those things, we're a lot like them, and it's something that they're ones that want us to continue and do well are working toward having us be in a better situation. I believe that's how I read it.
Yes, that's how it's supposed to be. But there's always, in the galaxies, there's always the nefarious forces that don't want that. So I guess it's always been a battle, at least as far as we know. So
Brad, what are you finding in your research on all this? So your sources are like, what are your sources? What are you studying?
Well, it's mainly what I'm reading or listening to, like reading the Sumerian epics right now, and I've read The Secret Doctrine, and listening to Elena Danaan talk about her Galactic Federation of Worlds information. There's some other people. Omnic Onik, who says she's from planet Venus. She had some really interesting information. She wrote her book in the 1960s, saying that she was physically brought here from Venus as a 7-year-old.
Yeah, we spoke with her early on when we were doing Aquarian radio. So,
oh yeah,
is she still alive? She was.
Oh yes, she just did a conference with her the person who manages her, Anya Schaefer. She did a conference in Germany, and then I saw her last year at the Mount Shasta conference with Rob Potter.
Yeah, Rob has a good conference every year in Shasta. Yeah.
Yeah, that was one of the people I researched a lot. Some other people, I like Robert Sepper's information. He talks about Hyperborea, the Vril, and Atlantis, ancient Europeans. I researched that. Zechariah Sitchin, a little bit. I'm reading a lot of his stuff now to use partially as a reference for the talk. Books, anything about Maria Orsic and the Vril Society. A lot of the books about it I don't have, but there's a lot of information online. I do have Maximilian de Lafayette's books. He seems to have information that nobody else has, and I don't know how he got it. So.
Well, he contacted me. I think he might be deceased now, or sometimes they pretend to die and move on. When I met him, he said he was 137 years old. He said it was getting difficult to, keep that up. But he had published over 60 books or something.
Right, they're online. I have a couple of them here with me.
Yeah, he sent me a couple. He said, "Here, let me give you two." So he emailed them to me, and so we had it. But then all of a sudden he just dropped off. So I just wondered what was the last reference you've seen of Maximilian? And he was on some of the shows, like I don't know if he was on Ancient Aliens, but yeah.
I'm just finding out that he was on shows. When I first heard about his books, I didn't see any reference to him doing anything, and it made me, I was like, maybe he's doing that because his information's so controversial. That's what I was thinking. I don't really know. Or that he's making up stuff. That's just a theory. I asked Dr. Michael Sala about it, and he seemed to be, he wasn't sure about the origin of some of the information. That's what he seemed to be saying, Dr. Michael Sala. But
yeah, he seemed to be at the time. He was like, this is many years ago. This is 20 years ago. But he seemed to be scanning the early internet and uh, collecting the information, kind of like a researcher. And so he had actually quoted some of our information. He was quoting Sitchin. But he's got 60 books. I don't have time to read 60 books.
All right, but some of it has some really important information, I think. He's talking about the Anunnaki, and he talks about the Anak as their language, and he's talking about in Ulema. I think it might be something to do with Sufism, or he's like referring to something that's not Orthodox Islamic, but something in the Middle East. And he seems to be getting his Anunnaki information from that source, whatever it is. So maybe that has a connection to the things that Maria Orsic was receiving from these beings from Aldebaran.
Right.
That's my feeling, just from instinct, because I've had telepathic connection with Maria Orsic. I feel like she sends me messages, but I couldn't verify it physically, but in my energy, in my spirit, because it's been consistent since I heard about her, I feel like she's important in my life or in this disclosure of extraterrestrial contact with Earth.
Karen, you've got a question. I can see it on your face.
What is your take on the Maria Orsic story? Like where are you coming from with it? I think it's fascinating story. I kind of got into it a little bit just from a different angle on the story based on ancient languages in the Balkan region, and there's an interesting thread there we could talk about. But what was like what kind of, when did you start having the messages, and like what's your take on, because there's the story and we have various angles of the story through various means. What was your personal, like what you took away from your contacts?
Well, like that, the beings she was contacting had some sort of message and wanted to help us, but because of where it happened, it was hijacked by the National Socialists. So, because some people that know about Maria Orsic were saying she was in favor of that, but other people were saying no, she wasn't. And I feel like her heart wouldn't support the program of National Socialism as it was presented. But supposedly that happened at that era in early 1920s, and the National Socialists used some of the technology to build anti-gravity spacecraft that they wanted to use in the World War II.
Right. They were doing something. Let me look it up. I have it on my website. There was something like 10,000 people started getting information from extraterrestrials on how to build craft, and for some reason, the extraterrestrials were helping the Nazis early on, and that's how they got the technological advance over us.
I don't know if they were helping them. That's the part that I can't really tell.
Yeah, well, somebody else is talking. I'm going to see if I can find that since we're on Maria. But then during World War II, Bill Tompkins got recruited by the military, and they took him there's some stories of these young geniuses that the military finds, and they bring them in their teens. So Bill at his graduation was like, no, you're not going anywhere, you're coming with us. And his dad had to sign a paper. So then he was in the program, and he was working with the American Maria Orsic type, the long-haired girls, but they had cut their, I don't know if they cut their hair or anyway, they looked American. And they called them the secretaries, and they were all Nordic looking, the secretaries.
Were they the same people that worked with Maria, or maybe they weren't, but just doing the same function? It's hard to say.
They were contemporaries of Maria. So while Maria was over there with the Germans, and so they had intelligence and spies going back and forth, and they were the Americans, and they were helping Bill Tompkins and whoever he was working for in the military, different major companies like Raytheon, all these companies that are major companies in the military, and he was working with them. And so they had developed, let me get the whole story. They were behind the space race, and so when they made it to the moon, they were planning on colonizing, and they have the ability to just start it. But when they landed there, they were met with the reptilian spaceships all around where was the landing place? I don't know, you might know it. But they were greeted by all these craft, and it's like, you can't stay here, you're not welcome. So they let them complete a couple of their missions, but then they shut that off. And so that was one of the reasons. Anyway, I highly recommend. It's called Selected by Extraterrestrials. I have 4 books in this series. And so if you're interested in Maria Orsic, they tie in. So that's how we didn't get obliterated. And then apparently, whoever these extraterrestrials were, they shift their allegiance to the United States. That's why we got ahead in everything, space race and technology and everything. So that's why
we also got a lot of German scientists who were immigrated here through Fort Bliss in Operation Paperclip, and the programs that, because of the degradation of the working conditions in Europe, scientists left Germany, and some of them went in our space program, and others went into the Soviet space program. So there's a to me, it's like this. What somebody pointed out that the generals of World War I had more in common with Caesar, with horses and cavalry and all that stuff, and then they did with what's modern. So right at the beginning of the last century, we were still, horse and buggy-ish, especially in terms of war horses and the whole thing.
Right.
And then all of a sudden, by the time I'm a little kid, we're going to space. So a lot happened between in that era, 100 years ago, right? It was 100 years ago, it would have been roughly. That absolutely changed the trajectory of humanity. And when you get into these little details of the fact that we may have had, we probably went to the moon, we probably had help. Is the thing. And the fact that it just seems like with the technology that was developed, we had help when crafts crashed all over the world, and they were picked up by various governments and back engineered. That was an impetus to our space program. We're pretty smart monkeys, but sometimes we need help. Right.
Yeah,
Corso talked about that.
It's in that book.
Yes, absolutely.
Exactly. I wanted to ask about William Tompkins. Was he involved before the end of World War II or after?
They pulled him in during World War II because he lived in California, and his dad used to take him down. They would have tours of the ships. And he came back and made these models, and then he had all these models in this store window, and there was just dozens of them. And somebody walked by and said, "Oh my God, that shouldn't be in there. That's the secret, this and that." And that's why he discovered Bill Tompkins, because he had this photogenic memory, but he was very observant, and he had details of their secret stuff that they didn't want to get out, and so they made them pull all those models from the front of that store, and they said, "Come here, you're in this program." So he was very instrumental, because as he was working with the secretaries, the beautiful secretaries, he was in telepathic communication with them, and so they would be having these think tanks, and trying to figure out how to do A, B, C, and D, and they would be saying, "Well, here's how you do it, Bill," and they would just talk to him telepathically. And so he looked like a super genius, but and he knew a lot of this stuff anyway because he was very intelligent. But he was starting to get this information on a level which was extraterrestrial, and so that's why his book is called "Selected by Extraterrestrials."
I did listen to some of his videos, interviews before he made his transition. So.
I wanted to say one thing before I forget it. So we were talking about going back to World War One. So I was dear friends with Cynthia Crawford, who's the
Oh, I like her. Oh, I got something to show you.
Sure.
I used to
I
always
got something to show you. See it? Look.
Yeah. So I used to get positioned when I was at conferences and I had my table. I would turn around, there's Cynthia. We were always really close to each other. And then she was a presenter, and so we got to be in the green room together. And we just loved each other. And she told me, I think I interviewed her a couple times. She said that she was in the hybrid program. She was implanted into her mother's womb, and her mother was already pregnant. So they sometimes do that. Like Cain and Abel have two different fathers. So this was and so when she was, and then she spent her whole life on board ship and channeling all this information to build these wonderful, like that right behind me, right there is from.
I
She gave
need to bring up something then.
Yeah.
You said Cynthia was in the hybrid program, and so she had.
Her dad was in it in the 1920s, and they had their lab off of Korea in a ship, so it wasn't even land based.
Right.
And he said, "I'm sorry, Cynthia, but you've been in the program since you were born because I was in the program." And so it's multi-generational.
Right.
Go ahead. Now your stuff. Go ahead, Brad.
I heard her story. I've listened to a lot of her videos, but she said she wasn't born through, the usual way. She was born with the test tube, artificially, I think.
Well, I think what they did at a certain point in order to have her accepted in society, and they have that technology, we have it.
Yeah.
So they were able to take the embryo, the fetus, the zygote, and put it.
Hearing that feedback again.
Okay, let me try to lower lower your speakers a little bit, everybody, because we're getting feedback. Probably, Brad, just a little bit. It's probably up too high. So anyway, she said that her dad told her he confessed before she was dying, and he was dying. So he told her before he died, and then she was talking right before she died. She had cancer and I think a brain tumor or something. Anyway, he said, "I'm sorry, but we put you into your mother's womb." But yeah, she was definitely created in the test tube. But we do that all the time now. We have in vitro fertilization. What do you think?
Yeah.
But I was going to bring up that according to some of the people in the disclosure community, there's a program, the Hybrid Children program, and the Greys are trying to take over humanity. This is the narrative I'm hearing. I don't think all Greys are, but that's probably happening since so many people are saying that. People who before were like, "Oh, this is okay," now they're saying, "Oh, it's a negative agenda, so we need to be opposed to it."
Well, I've been in the hybrid program, and I've been on board ship, and I've been in the meetings, and so it's not just one species. But what they're creating are creatures or beings that can survive in different conditions. So if we're going to colonize the universe, we need very varieties of species because we have different climates. So it's not about anything evil. It's about Heinlein said it. We don't own our DNA. Our DNA belongs to the cosmos. And so if these people, the Greys, have you ever listened to Lawrence Spencer's series of interviews on interview? No, not interview with alien. I'm thinking interview with vampires. Alien interview. It's a series of YouTubes. Very good. Very, very good. It was about the Grey that was captured at Roswell, and kept alive for several years. Well, apparently the craft that are crashing are actually delivered to us, so we can reverse engineer and catch up, because they need us to catch up technologically, because according to that theory, okay, that the Earth and the Moon are part of this prison planet system where we're stuck in a cycle of reincarnation. And so we keep getting recycled, and we're kind of like a slave species because we never break the cycle of reincarnation. But I don't think there's any victims. I think if you're in this cycle on some soul level, you're agreeing to come in here because you're accelerating lessons. You're learning faster than if you were in a easy place where you just relax your entire life, right? So anyway, I forgot where I was going. Let's pass the ball to somebody else. I'm talking too much. Oh yeah, you were saying that I don't go down negative agendas and evil empire shit, because I think you manifest what you focus on. And I always, my lesson, I'm 70 years old. It's like, you just got to be kind. If it doesn't respect consciousness, an existentialist meaning of evil is a disrespect for consciousness. If you're disrespecting somebody else's consciousness, that's evil. So I don't go there. So yeah, I don't know. Apparently, when we die, we're more conscious. It's just right above this level. And we've got more of the information, and we're no longer doing this polarity where we demonize and we kill and be killed. So I think that most of existence is positive, and there might be this little experiment here. They call it the One God University, an area where we agree to be separate and mind wiped and go through the veil. And that's where we act out like Star Wars and all that stuff. But I more like Star Trek, not Star Wars. I like to keep things kind and conscious. So
right. The Star Trek is supposedly it's a reflection of the reality of the Galactic Federation of Worlds, including the Prime Directive. So
yeah, and I started out at 12. Star Trek premiered in my late teens, early 20s. I was going to the conferences, and in those days we had panels with Robert Heinlein, Isaac Asimov, J. Allen Hynek, Gene Roddenberry, and some other people, and we were discussing these issues as if they were real and factual, because at that green room where I was sitting, Carl Crawford was there. They were saying, no, Roddenberry had direct access to this information. So those early people had to filter through science fiction in order to get it out, and that was the first level of disclosure.
Yes, that's true. Another person said this. Her name is Francie Steiger Pascal. I heard her say that the films were planned, like those type of films, science fiction, UFO, space films were designed to prepare us for disclosure. And she was saying that in 1982. She was interviewed by her husband at the time, Brad Steiger. I don't know if you ever heard.
Oh yeah, I've seen Brad Steiger. Yeah, he was great.
Did you meet Francie? That was his wife before Sherry.
I heard of her. I might have seen her. I could not stay. I popped into this. He was in Pittsburgh, and I was working in Pittsburgh, and I had another appointment, but I got to come in for about half an hour. So it's all in person. But I'd read back in those days that we didn't have a lot of stuff like we do now. There's very few books. So Brad Steiger was one of the early books that I read, and he was just amazing. Let's have Karen speak a little bit. I can see you've got a comment or question. I can tell when you have a comment or question, Karen.
Yes, mind reader. No, I just want to get back to the where Brad's coming from and what he's going to talk about. I'm very curious. I wish I could be with you guys. It sounds like a good conference. And do you have a clear thing, or you just kind of wing it, or what's your sense of what you're going to?
Yeah, because it is kind of both. Because I can't define 100% that Anunnaki created humans. There's stories about it, and it makes sense to some degree, and then there's people saying that they're meeting them. I haven't met them, but I feel that it's true. especially listening to Elena Danaan. Her details and her information are very complex. I don't feel it's just a made-up story. So that's why it's clear, but it isn't clear. Plus, I haven't done a presentation, so I'm kind of, and then the question and answer will maybe help things along. So, plus, I don't have all the answers. Every person has a different perspective.
Right.
A lot of times the same, say the Pleiadians, a lot of people are saying, okay, I'm in touch with Pleiadians, and they have different information. How do I know which one is accurate information?
It depends on which Pleiadian you're talking to. It's just like which human do you talk to? We all have different information.
Right.
Humans, so
They don't use the term Pleiadian either. That's a Earth language. So.
Right. That's our identifier. Yeah. So what does Ilana say that the Anunnaki call themselves?
Oh, the Anak Empire, Anakh, Anak Empire.
Like the yeah. Anunnaki.
Yeah, Anunnaki is just a class of beings. If you look at the Sumerian literature, they use the term Anunnaki, but I feel like
King of Nibiru, and they were the ones that who came down to Ki, and Ki is Earth. So
Earth.
Those who descended from the heavens and the earth, who probably are the ancestors of Anu, the tribe of Anu.
That could be. That could be. Anu had a father too, though, so maybe it was Anshar. It's in the
An was An.
right in the Enuma Elish. There was Anshar and Kishar, and then there was the primordial Absu, which was the water, and even Tiamat. I think Tiamat was older than Anu, maybe.
So we identify sometimes as a planet. So our souls are able to incarnate in astral bodies, not just in.
See, I want to cover that in the talk, but it's so complex. Hopefully, I can just say it in a few words because I don't have like 100 slides set up. I have about 5 slides so far. Hopefully, I can remember this. Maybe you'll be in the audience. I'm speaking Friday. That's what is it? October 18th at like 9:30 a.m. Anybody who's going to be there, hopefully I'm plugging it. Hopefully you'll see it. Support the event if you haven't already. So.
Yeah, alienevent.com. Make sure you can join it via live streaming as well.
Exactly, it's $99. I think
he's been able to do that. You can get the whole conference 4 days for $99. So, and then you could be in the chat. Like I've got people in the chat. Hi, people. I'm sorry, I'm not paying attention.
Are there some people in the chat? Are there?
Yeah. Got,
oh, good. I didn't invite anyone because I didn't know all the details, but I can have people watch the replay.
Famous lady, Lisa Simpson.
I have a question.
Go ahead, Sharon. Oh, shoot, Brad. Don't leave us.
Oh,
Brad.
Yeah.
Here, okay,
do they have an online option for this conference? Because that would be something I'd like to do.
Yes, there is. Yes, it's $99. They said.
Yeah, that's what we were saying. Yeah. You can
for the whole conference, it'll be live stream.
Oh, that's good. Yeah, that's good.
And I think it starts on Wednesday afternoon or Thursday afternoon.
No, Thursday afternoon. Yeah.
Thursday. I'll be there Wednesday to help out a little bit. Whoever's going to be there, you'll say.
Good.
When do you arrive, Janet?
I can't talk about that right now.
Okay, I like that.
Quite figured all that out yet, but yeah.
I love it. Hey, you'll be there when the divine timing gets you there.
Yeah, we're still working on that level.
Oh, good. Well, it'll be a great pleasure to see you and communicate about these truths, as I say.
And then we're looking at the one in the spring in LA, which is closer for me. Although I can get direct into Vegas too. So yeah.
Maybe I'll be there. I don't know. I have other things to do next year too, but never
Oh,
know.
we all do. We don't know what next year looks like yet. We're still
Yeah, that's true. But the other conference I went to was good too, where Elena Denon spoke, the Galactic Spiritual Informers Conference. It was really
Where was
good.
that at?
It was just outside of Denver, Colorado.
Yeah. Well, I recommend that everybody go to as many conferences as you can, because that's where we get all the information. We all look at each other. We share what we know. We got to respect each other, and the more you can be listened to and heard and understood and empathize with, and give compassion and receive it, and that's faster that this disclosure is going to happen. I think disclosure is a grassroots movement. It starts with us. We are disclosure. We're not going to not going to like the government saying, yeah, this is what it is. They've had their chance. All right, let's see where we are. We're 51 minutes into it. We've got about 9 minutes left. Okay. Karen, what would you like to say? We'll begin to wrap this up.
Karen, what's your specialty? What is your specialty, Karen?
My specialty is I'm a contactee. Actually, in the last couple of years, I've been more on the side of talking to them than people.
That's
because
good.
I'm tracking certain developments. The one I'm the most interested in right now is development of AI and its effect on us. I am not afraid of it like so many people are. I think it's like a mirror to me. I think it's going to mirror back who we actually are as opposed to what we think we are. And I'm involved in looking into that, both like technically and maybe professionally, but I'm also looking into where's that coming from, what's that going to help us do. And I really have a theory based on A.R. Borden's involvement on what I think AI is, but that would have to be another show.
Oh, okay.
So, yeah.
My phone is going out.
Too much to it.
My phone's going out.
You're losing the
Oh
phone.
my God. Yep.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, stay with it because he's gone. Okay. He might come back. Alrighty. So anyway, so that was very interesting, and we always have this technical stuff going on, but that's okay. It's par for the course. So anyway, you can't quite give us the whole theory, but my theory is
it's involved.
We're never going to know. We could be AI ourselves. I mean, because apparently consciousness can go into quote unquote artificial bodies and androids and things. In Battlestar Galactica, they didn't know. If you can watch the Battlestar Galactica from the early 2000s, and then there was the Caprica. It's an amazing series. It's just it's fabulous, and they explored a lot of concepts which I think are totally relevant. And I think there are, because I've encountered these androids. So the Greys make gray androids, right? So some of them are meat and blood type of creatures, and some of them are androids. But the androids may not know they're androids. And we have robots that are saying, our robots are saying, yeah, I'm alive, I'm conscious, so we may
and
be.
there's been many reports back that the ships, if they could get an alien ship relatively intact, that is intelligent as well, that it has an intelligence to it. They have intelligent technology built in, I guess. But I'll just kind of give the most briefest thing that I think about that is that in my studies spiritually, I've gotten to the level or idea that I'm exploring of that animism, which is a philosophical thing that says that everything has got consciousness. Everything's built from consciousness, right? So I don't really believe in artificial intelligence. I believe in learning, intelligence that's learning. and that everything has an intelligence to it. And that's part of what, when we connect with the world and we get like more information out of our connection to the world. And I do a lot of meditation in nature, so that's a thing for me. That's when we can plug into that intelligence, and it's all intelligent. We can learn anything that we need to know. So sometimes when they have these clandestine programs to kind of narrow down what it is they want us to know, or sometimes called consensus reality, and I call it the consensus reality show because most of it's through media at this point. Yeah. And I think it's good to unplug from that. If you can, go out into nature and plug into the INNERNET, internet. Within, right?
Yeah.
And everything's there that you do, probably more than you wanted to know, actually. But yeah, it's there. The guidance is there. The relationships is there. The information is there. And not only that, but there's a process. And this might not mean anything much to anybody, but it does to me. Is that we go from knowledge to knowing to known. Knowledge is factoids, right? Things that we need to know. Knowing is beginning to connect with the flow of knowing things that you need to know and connecting. And to be known is to have that interconnection with the universe where you don't feel alone, where you know you're known and you're real. and you're loved and cared for, and loved and cared for.
Yeah.
Yes, I believe that too.
I've had that experience of, I didn't know what to call it. That's a good way of calling it, but it's like you get the information and then it internalizes, and actually when it finally goes from information or belief to knowing, I kind of go, I get this aha, and light bulb off, and it's like, wow. And you just know at that point, because I think you've connected to all the way to the source. I think we have an eternal connection to universal consciousness, to God's source, to oneness, but we feel disconnected. And there are moments in our lives where it's suddenly you're back and you're reconnected to the whole thing. But of course, since you're down here having a human experience, it's like, well, I'm going to go unconscious again. I'm going to remember part of this. I'm not going to have exact knowledge. And who was that? There was one of the actors. Carrey, the comedian, Jim Carrey.
Jim Carrey.
Yeah, he has this wonderful thing where he was talking to some students at a graduation, right? They're graduating, and he had this whole thing. He must have done a trip on acid or something, but he just talked about he was all of a sudden connected, where he was everything, and they said, then you come back and you're human again, and All right, well, here's Brad. Let's hope I can get him on one more time. Hi, Brad. You're on.
Hi, sorry, my didn't have the charger on my phone, so.
Yes, gotta always keep it charged. I have a charger station right beside the computer, so I can always charge the phone. Okay, so this is our last 2 minutes. We're gonna give it to you, Brad. So what would you like to say to end the show?
Well, first off, I appreciate you being hospitable, Janet. And I appreciate you have a vast experience. I feel like your heart is open, and that's why the extraterrestrials have spoken to you. And I appreciate your connection to Ninma, and I don't know what other beings you're connected to. I feel like you have a strong connection to all the major Anunnaki beings. From what, just looking at your literature in the last few days, I wasn't familiar with it at all. I'd heard that you and your husband referenced Anunnaki, but I didn't know any details until I knew you were going to be at the conference with me. So I feel like people who are interested or connected to Sumerian or Anunnaki or Ea, there's some connection that they have to the future of humanity. And I was inspired by Elena Danan's recent connection with Enki Ea to do this presentation about their role. So that's my inspiration right now. But just the general that we are galactic species, humans, all over the universe, actually. And I hope that I will inspire a few people, but I don't want to be the expert. My experiences, a lot of them are more spiritual. I've seen some beings appear to me, but I haven't been physically taken on a ship that I remember, maybe. Oh, that's what I want to say right now. And thank you very much for having me on your show.
Well, thank you, Brad. Thank you, Karen. Thank myself for showing up. We made it happen, and we will be back again next week sometime.
Thanks, Saeed Farman.
Yeah, thank you, David Saeed
Thank you.
Farman, alienevent.com. Go get your tickets, either be there live or stream, but join this movement, and all of us together will make this happen. I think it really is a group event,
Yes.
and each and every one of us is as equally important as each other. I'm not into hierarchy. I think we all make it happen. So I'm into group oneness situation.
Yes.
All
We're
right,
all hierarchy and training.
Yes. Well, thank you for joining us in the
I don't
chat.
know if you know that we saw.
Say that again?
We saw spaceships at the Denver conference. We saw spaceships appear, a fleet of ships over the Denver conference. I saw it with my own eyes. It wasn't fake. It was
nope. They want to
fleet of
ships. Events in Arizona and in New Mexico. When you go outside, and when you get your head out of the conference, you go outside and look up, because they're celebrating with us. All right, Karen,
okay.
say aloha, everybody.
Thank you.
Aloha. Thank you for joining us. We're going to end the stream.
Aloha.
Aloha.
I hope.
Aloha.